Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to the tier list for Wild Rift patch 5.3 and the brand new season 15. With the new items coming into the game, there has been a shift up in the meta, and also we have the brand new champion Heimerdinger to talk about in the mid lane and in the support role. So let's dive straight into this. First up in the Baron lane, the big thing in the Baron lane was all about the new Hextech Black Cleaver. I think it's a very strong item overall. However, there are still some very strong bruiser items out there that still go above Hextech Black Cleaver, the likes of Trinity Force and Sundered Sky as well. In terms of the S plus tier, not really too much has changed. There's been a few shift arounds with the likes of Ornn going down into the S tier and the likes of Camille going up into the S plus tier. Now, even though I do have the Grasp Beyond Dying on Camille in the S plus tier, I do feel like the new fleet footwork can also be a great benefit to Camille. Overall, she's a very strong champion at the moment in the Baron lane. She has great lockdown. She has great split pushing overall. I'm still testing out the fleet footwork. I still need to give it a try. Let me know what your preferred rune of Camille is down in the comments if you do play her. But in terms of the rest of the S plus tier, we have the likes of Mordekaiser, still very strong. Very surprised that Mordekaiser didn't receive a nerf in the most recent patch. I think he's one of the strongest champions in the Baron lane, and the great thing is he gives you that EP damage in the Baron lane as well, so you kind of don't have to worry about that on the rest of the map. Aatrox in the Baron lane, still a great duelist, still great at them 1v1 scenarios. Again, great in team fights, works incredibly well with the Hextech Black Cleaver. Same with Darius as well. For the likes of Aatrox and Darius, this new Hextech Black Cleaver is the go-to first item now. For Darius, it's great for him for the movement speed, especially the increased movement speed when you get the maximum stacks of Black Cleaver. And of course, reducing the armor will increase all of his damage. In terms of the best tank in the Baron lane, we still have Maokai. This tree is still incredibly annoying to deal with in the laning phase, with so much healing, so much scaling HP as well with Heartsteel, and is great when he comes to the team fights with his ultimates. There are still some great champions in the S tier though that you can still give a try. You still got the likes of Garen, again another champion that benefits a lot from the new Hextech Black Cleaver. The same with Renekton, the same with Set as well, the same with Urgot, and the same with Wukong. All these champions benefited a lot from the Hextech Black Cleaver buff. We still have the likes of Jax, whether you can build him as a bruiser or you can build him with more ability power thanks to his rework that happened a few patches ago. His AP build is now becoming a lot stronger and also a lot more popular. Riven, again, another champion that I forgot to mention in this tier that again benefits so well with the Hextech Black Cleaver. I was tempted to move Riven up to the S plus tier with how well that she works with this new Hextech Black Cleaver, but I'm just going to hold off for a little bit and see how the rest of the season goes, or see how the rest of this patch goes, I should say. Akali, again, another strong AP threat in the Baron lane. You might struggle a little bit in the Baron lane against some of these bruisers that trade well in the laning phase, but if you play passive, if you just farm up, get a few items, you could be really strong during team fights. Shen is still incredibly powerful with his split pushing mechanics. The likes of Titanic Hydra allows him to split push very quickly. You can take towers in the side lane and then join a team fight whenever you want to with his ultimates. And then some other tanks like Ornn as well, again, are very strong with all the crowd control and the CC that he can bring to a team fight. Moving down into the A tier, not really too much has changed in the A tier, kind of champions that are still sitting there. I don't feel like KO is that strong as what people think. I do think KO is a lot stronger than what she was before. That's why she's gone from C tier up to A tier. I just don't think it's worth her moving up into S tier. I mean, in terms of the Baron lane, she is still the weakest in terms of the laning phase. She still doesn't do anything really up until level 5. But even beyond that point, she is still very weak. It is nice that KO can reach her power point at level 13 now instead of level 15. If you can reach that level 13 mark, then she can become one of the strongest champions in the game with the best build out there at the moment. Rest of the A tier, again, as I mentioned, not really too much has changed. You've still got some really strong tanks. The likes of Gwen is still very strong. Yasuo, if you want to build him more tanky, you can play him in the Baron lane. However, with the tank build, you normally go for the likes of Wit's End, which can be good against AP champions, but most of the time can struggle a little bit in the Baron lane. That's why he's a lot better in the mid lane. The same with Jace as well. Again, a champion that doesn't do too well into matchups in the Baron lane, that does a lot better in the mid lane against some of these mages and assassins. Still have Yone in this tier as well. Malphite is still a really good tank, the same with Sion as well. And then you have the bullies in the lane, the likes of Teemo and Kennen, that can use their range advantage early on to get a big lead. In the B tier, again, not really much has changed in the B tier and the C tier as well. Singed, in my opinion, is still the worst champion in terms of the Baron lane. Just doesn't offer anything at all, doesn't do any damage. I'm actually really excited to see Singed's rework. That's a bit of a hard one to say. Singes, whatever, however you say that. Basically, his rework, which it looks like Wild Rift and Riot are kind of moving more towards a supportive role, which again is going to be very, very interesting. Again, but B tier though, champions that just take too long to scale, or champions that just doesn't really offer too much in the Baron lane, and also just weak champions overall, like Irelia. Moving into the jungle, S plus tier didn't really change too much. I did move one champion down. I do feel like Lee Sin is maybe a little bit overhyped. I do think the champion is still very, very strong. I do think that the champion has a lot of great carry potentials. However, I do feel like there are champions that are better, and every champion in the S plus tier, in my opinion, is better than Lee Sin at the moment. Rengar, I think since his rework, he's been one of the strongest champions in the game. I think his invisibility, his one-shot potential. There's even sort of a bruiser build that's coming around at the moment with the new Hextech Black Cleaver. You can build the likes of Divine Sunderer, Death's Dance, go for a more bruiser build, but still do a lot of damage because his first ability is guaranteed to crit every single time. Gragas Bomberman, I mean, he is just so powerful right now. You can one-shot pretty much anyone on the map once you get his full build. You also have the new Hextech Awakened Soul Stealer as well, or it's called Hextech Soul Stealer now instead of Awakened Soul Stealer, which again is very good for Gragas with his one-shot potential. You get to steal the movement speed and also steal the ability haste as well, which is great, which means Gragas can use his abilities more often. Lilia's still very powerful, whether you want to go for Electrocute, whether you want to go for Phase Rush. Both of these runes are very powerful for the movement speed, but also for the burst damage as well. With Xin Zhao, in my opinion, the best bruiser out there, one of the best junglers out there as well. This champion just does crazy damage, has an ultimate that denies every single ranged champion in the entire game, has great ganking potential, has knock up, has CC. This champion just has it all, and that's why he's sitting right at the top in the S plus tier. The S tier, not really much has changed. As I mentioned already, Lee Sin moving down. Hecarim, I've moved back up into the S tier. One of the best champions with the new Hextech Black Cleaver. Hecarim is a champion that can benefit a lot from the movement speed, because movement speed gives him more damage. And with Black Cleaver, it's really easy to get up to 4 stacks with Hecarim. Use your third ability, use your ultimate, use your second ability, and even your first ability. And then you can even use your auto attack in between as well, which is going to easily allow you to get to maximum stacks and allow you to deal more damage, and also get more movement speed with the likes of Phase Rush as well. Vi, with her incredible lockdown, is still very powerful. The likes of the easy champions like Amumu and Rammus, I still really like in the jungle. If you were kind of the first time playing in the jungle, the likes of Amumu and Rammus are great to play. They're easy to play, they're tanks, and they allow you to just kind of learn the jungle through time. Wukong, I was tempted to move up into the S plus tier. The same with Talon as well. I think Wukong, with the buff that happened to his first ability in terms of his damage, allows him to clear through the jungle a lot quicker and gives him a lot more kill pressure when it comes to team fights. Talon as well, one of the most annoying champions to deal with his ultimate turn invisible, and then he can just jump from out of nowhere and do some crazy damage. But you still have the likes of Jarvan in here, which I think Jarvan does a lot better with the new Black Cleaver build, with Trinity Force as well, going for more bruiser build. You still have Shadow Assassin Kayn, Kha'Zix is still very strong in here, and Aatrox and Riven. Moving down into the A tier, I've moved Maokai down from S tier down to A tier. I think in terms of tank junglers, I think the Rammus and Amumu are a lot better than Maokai. Maokai does a lot better in the support role and in the Baron lane. In the jungle, his clear is not as strong as what it was before. You know, it was nerfed a few patches ago. I still feel like it was pretty strong, but now with some more junglers stepping up and more junglers being a lot stronger, I think Maokai might struggle a little bit in the jungle this patch. I've also moved Viego down as well. There was this build with the crit Viego, which did get nerfed. There are still people that are still trying to build the crit Viego, which I've never really liked, to be fair. I mean, it does give you like crazy one-shot potential, but you also die in an instant as well. So it's more of a case of you need to kill someone before they kill you, but it can be difficult with Viego since you don't have that much crowd control and it can be quite difficult to hit. But overall, the champion is just not as strong as what he was before. Fiddlesticks is maybe a little bit underrated this patch. I feel like Fiddlesticks can be very good with the new Hextech Soul Stealer. I think that it's one of the best champions with this item, since he can jump in with his ultimate, do a crazy amount of damage, and then kill enemies pretty much in an instant. And then you get that extra movement speed to stay within range to use your second ability, and then the likes of the fear and everything else as well. Other than that, nothing really else has changed in the A tier. I mean, there's not really any champions that I really wanted to highlight. I mean, you still have Kayle as well, which Kayle can be good. I would say if you're like duo Q or trio Q, and if you're duo Q, jungle and support, and you get the likes of like Yuumi or Milio or Lulu, then Kayle can probably be S tier, because you can play this funnel strategy where the support is basically following the Kayle and just going to lane whenever she needs to, basically, which this can help Kayle clear through the jungle quicker, allow her to stay healthy, and also help her get to level 13 much quicker. I still like the likes of Yone in the jungle. I still think Yone is very powerful. Darius as well can be very good in the jungle, and even the likes of Nunu as well. Again, bit of a weaker tank, but still can be very strong with all the crowd control that they can bring. B tier. Again, I don't think anything has changed in B tier. B tier is kind of like the unique champions in a way, or just the weak champions overall. You know, champions like Gwen, Camille, Jace does a lot better in lane, but you can still play them in jungle. Maybe not as strong as what they were before, but you can still play them. Fiora and Zed as well. Shyvana, I still don't like. I understand that people maybe think that I'm underrating Shyvana, but I just feel like she's a champion that doesn't offer any crowd control in team fights. She's really easy to pill. She's really easy to lock down. She can be really good if she gets her stacks and if she upgrades her abilities. But I think that Kayle just scales better and becomes a lot stronger than Shyvana. Nilah can also be good. Same scenario as Kayle. Nilah can definitely move up a tier if, again, you have this funnel strategy with the likes of Lulu or Yuumi. All right. That is everything for that. Mid lane. Okay, let's talk about the Donga. I need to talk about the Donga. This Donga champion is absolutely disgusting. I mean, there are two different types of builds that you can build with the Donga at the moment. You can even go for this more tankier build with the likes of Liandry's and Rylai's, where you go for more utility, or you can go for this crazy one-shot build with the Soul Stealer, with Infinity Orb, with Death Cap as well. Whatever build you go with this champion, it is absolutely disgusting. I've got into a situation with Donga now where if I'm on red side, if I'm second pick, which this needs to happen in your games as well, and people need to really understand the basics of this game sometimes. If you are second pick, and if you're on red side, if my mid laner hovers Heimerdinger, I am still banning it. And that is just because the enemy team has first pick, and 99% of the time, Heimerdinger is a first pick champion. And he is absolutely crazy. Probably one of the strongest champions out there at the moment. The lockdown is crazy. The turrets just offer you so much potential. He's so difficult to gank as well. The amount of times I've survived a 1 versus 2 just because I place my turrets in the right spot. I use my abilities as well to lock down the jungler. Absolutely crazy champion. I mean, like I said, by far the best champion out there at the moment. And again, I feel like it should be banned in every single game right now. I mean, probably the ban rate right now in China is through the roof with how crazy this champion is. Syndra, the best mage at the moment by far. Very, very strong mage. Her scaling becomes so much sooner now. Again, another champion that benefits a lot from the new Hextech Soul Stealer, because you can one-shot very, very easily. Again, you're going to be stealing ability haste. You're going to be stealing movement speed, which is great. And Yasuo as well. When playing in the mid lane, whether you play the crit build of Yasuo, whether you play the tank build of Yasuo, one of the strongest champions out there at the moment. Can be a little bit on the difficult side in terms of playing him, but I think even if you're starting up with Yasuo, just learning his basic combo of just landing a tornado, using your ultimate, and just using your third ability to get to safety, you don't really need to learn too much, because this champion is just crazy strong right now. S tier, obviously, with only a few champions being in S tier, I did move some champions down in the S tier. So Ahri, I moved down, and also Kastin, I moved down. Doesn't mean that these champions are really weaker than what they were before. It's just that champions are becoming stronger, like Heimerdinger obviously coming into the game, and also Syndra becoming stronger as well. So I still feel like Ahri is still very good with her lockdown and with her kind of Lichbane build with empowered attack. Kastin with his late game scaling is still very strong as well. You still have the same champions in the S tier, the likes of Zoe, who is absolutely disgusting at the moment. I always have a great performance on Zoe, and I feel like she is one of the strongest champions in the game because she's just so good at picking players off and picking people off with her third ability and just one-shotting them with her first ability as well. So I really, really like Zoe. Jace, if you want another AD option in the mid lane, again, is very good with the likes of Yone. If you want to sit back, though, and just be a boring mage, I guess you can say, and just use your abilities and just hope your team can kind of carry you, you can play the likes of Ziggs and Morgana. Morgana probably offers a bit more with her ultimate and her black shield, but Ziggs is still really good at just sitting back and just throwing his bombs away. Down into the A tier, I don't think anything has changed in A tier at all. I think I moved Lucian down, if I'm not mistaken. Lucian moved down from S tier to A tier. I mean, Lucian overall is just not that strong at the moment. But in terms of the A tier, these are like okay champions to play. These are like champions that can have, you know, quite a bit of benefit if you can get ahead. I also moved Vladimir and Orianna down as well. Again, kind of same scenario that maybe you know, they're just not as strong as the S tier champions at the moment. Vladimir just takes too long to scale. Vladimir could be good actually with the Hextech Soul Reaver. I still need to test that out. And Orianna as well. Again, her scaling, it just takes a little bit too long. You compare like Orianna scaling to like Syndra scaling, for example. It's like second to none. But again, there are some good champions here that you can play. Vex, again, another champion, Hextech Soul Stealer, which is very, very good because she gets her resets on her ultimate when she gets a kill, which she has great one-shot potential as well. Akshan or Corki if you want to play more ADCs in the mid lane, or even if you want to play some mages, Zyra, Veigar, and even Annie can work as well. I still keep Malphite in the C tier. I got a lot of, well, not hate comments, but got a lot of people in the comments saying like, oh, why have you put Malphite in C tier? Please don't play Malphite mid lane in my games. I mean, yes, it can be useful. Yes, you can one-shot someone. But the amount of people I've seen play Malphite mid and then miss their ultimates is unbearable. Like, I think I get nightmares every single night at the moment thinking about Malphite mid lane. So I'm always going to keep him C tier until something changes. Something changes and a miracle happens in one of my matches. And maybe I might move him up. But again, B tier champions that maybe not as strong in the mid lane right now. You know, Katarina gets locked down quite a lot by crowd control. Talon is a lot better in the jungle. You can probably play him in the mid lane. He's probably okay. Aurelion Sol, again, scaling is not there. You don't get Stardust as much anymore, unfortunately. Galio, you can try and go for one-shot potential, but it can be difficult. And then you have the more supportive mid laners like Seraphine and Karma, which, if you're a support main, I'd recommend playing in the mid, but you're not going to get the crazy carry potential as some other mid lane champions. Moving into my main role, AD carry. I've been playing a lot of AD carry this patch. I've been playing a lot of different champions as well. I've been playing some crazy games. I think I'm on like 60 games already. I've had some good days. You probably saw my start of season, but you've also seen probably my bad days as well, where being an AD carry main can be very tough at the moment in this meta with, I mean, just in general in Wild Rift, I feel like, because when you're playing solo queue like I was yesterday, there are a lot of scenarios where either your support is just not up to scratch or the rest of your team are going like at like 0-13 mid lane, 0-11 top lanes. I had a lot of crazy stuff yesterday. But anyway, that's enough about my solo queue nightmares. S plus tier champions, Xayah, I think the changes that were made to Xayah. Also, we have to remember that some of these champions did get nerfed in terms of the base AD. This kind of to nerf them in the Baron lane, but their scaling got a lot stronger, which I feel like Xayah got the most benefit out of every single champion. She is weaker up until level 5, but beyond level 5, she's actually getting more AD per level than what she was before. And Xayah already was one of the safest, one of the best AD carries to pick, just because of the way her kit works, the way she builds, and also with lethal tempo as well. One of the best AD carries out there for sure. Varus, there are like 3 or 4 different builds you can go for. Every single one of them is still very strong, and he is still a very strong AD carry to play. And Caitlyn as well. I think in China right now, Caitlyn has a 20% play rate with like a 52 or 53% win rate. Is absolutely absurd. I mean, there's no surprise as well. Longest range out of any AD carry. Lethal tempo gives her more range. Hextech, oh my god, I forgot the item name. Stormrazor, that's the one. Hextech Stormrazor to benefit on top of that as well, with the likes of Magnetic Blaster being able to benefit a lot from that as well. Caitlyn got so many crazy like buffs, I feel like, with also the base AD of other AD carries going down as well, so it makes her early game even stronger. I mean, she's probably the best AD carry out there at the moment, and also the safest and easiest one to play as well. S plus tier, these champions are still very strong, whether you want to play long range mages like Ezreal in the early game, whether you want the late game scaling with Kai'Sa with her on hit build, you still have Severe, Tristana and Zeri as crit AD carries, or you want a bit of movement with Kalista. I mean, Kalista did get a pretty heavy nerf in terms of her base AD, which to be fair was warranted because her early game was just the strongest, really, to be honest. I mean, she was even beating Caitlyn's in lane just because of how much damage you do, especially with your Rend as well. But still, the scaling of these champions with the base AD being nerfed is to warrant that the late game is going to be stronger than the early game. So that's always going to be the case. Again, it's kind of to stop the likes of Kalista, Tristana from playing up in the Baron lane. A tier, Draven, pretty difficult at the moment. I mean, if you don't get an early game lead, and I need a big early game lead, then it's just too difficult. Jhin, I mean, Jhin is just in such a sad spot. Fleet Footwork got this buff where you gain 100% attack speed when you proc Fleet Footwork, and it doesn't give Jhin extra AD, which is kind of sad. I mean, Fleet Footwork is still the best rune to go on for him. You can go for Hextech Stormrazor as well, which is still pretty good. Again, the champion just doesn't deal as much damage, unfortunately. Ashe is pretty good. I mean, I always have the same situation with Ashe where she doesn't really do a lot of damage, but she has a lot of great crowd control, and she can be a great team player, I feel like. Samira just doesn't do anything. Honestly, I think I should move Samira down. I don't know why she's sitting in A tier, to be fair. Miss Fortune's still pretty okay with her combos, and Lucian is there. Lucian can be pretty good in the early game, but overall it's just pretty difficult right now. Jinx, unless paired with Lulu or Yuumi or any other support, and unless you just scale into the incredible late game, then she's pretty weak. Vayne could be okay. I feel like her base AD being nerfed just means her early game just got so much weaker. She got like attack speed per level, which I don't think is too great. Same with Twitch. I mean, Jinx, Vayne, and Twitch, unless you're paired with Enchanter supports, are just not that great, to be fair. And Neela and Corki are also pretty bad. So yeah, that's that. Support. I hate to admit it sometimes, but I was wrong about Milio. I was completely wrong about Milio. I thought that this champion would only be a duo queue champion. I thought it'd only be really strong in duo queue, but to be honest, this champion's also strong in solo queue. I mean, the amount of solo queue games I've played, I've had a Milio support by my side. I mean, warrant that it's me on AD carry, not to gloat or anything, but Milio is just absolutely crazy. I mean, even after the nerfs, Milio is crazy good. I feel like if you just have a Milio on your team that just knows who to shield and knows who to protect, like as a support, most of the time when you're playing solo queue, you play around a player or a champion that is extremely fed. As long as you do that with some of these champions like Milio, Janna, Lulu, Soraka, then you will be ahead and you will win the game because you'll be playing around the player who is the strongest on your team. Not to mention Heimerdinger also up there. You're probably wondering what the hell is Heimerdinger doing up here? Yeah, he's a pretty strong support. His turrets are super annoying during the laning phase. He has great lockdown. He has great crowd control to actually protect your AD carry. His upgraded ability is actually very good, whether it's the turrets, whether it's the big massive bomb that he can throw out as well, the grenade, the bomb that he can throw out. The upgraded version bounces 3 times. It does huge massive AoE damage and huge crowd control. So yeah, Heimerdinger, like I say, is just overtuned. I'll be very surprised if Heimerdinger doesn't get nerfed in the next patch. And that kind of leaves tank supports in a pretty rough spot, in my opinion, in this patch. I mean, you think of Milio and Janna as kind of the best supports, even Heimerdinger as well. All these supports do great against tanks. There are some tanks that are still pretty good in support. You know, Thresh, Leona, Braum, I still feel like is a very strong support. The big thing with tank supports was the addition of the Hextech Zeke's Convergence, which now gives you more solo carry potential because you deal more damage around yourself rather than relying on allies to deal more damage for you. So it's pretty good on the likes of Nautilus, Thresh, Leona, that can really use their ultimate and really get in the face of enemy champions. But again, Enchanter supports are still up here as well. Lux, Karma, Lulu, Soraka, just absolutely crazy right now with just how AD carries work and how these AD carries are now stronger in the late game. Xayah, Caitlyn, Tristana. So you think of all these AD carries, they're all hyper carries. And what works great with hyper carries? Enchanter supports. Xayah is still pretty good if you want to play more of a carry version in the support role. Her plants can be very annoying, and again, her ultimate is very good for zoning control. In the A tier, Yuumi is not that strong. I'll be totally honest. Yuumi is not that strong. I mean, it's strong if you have a player on your team that can not jump in and die all the time, but her healing is not as strong as what it was before. The damage that she gives over to her allies is not as strong as before. She is still good if you want to play this funnel strategy where you play with like a Kale or a Twitch or someone crazy like that. Then maybe the extra little bit of damage that you give can actually make a huge difference to some of these late game champions. But she's super weak during the laning phase. She doesn't do as much damage anymore. Again, her healing and her sustain is not as great. But yeah, I just don't think Yuumi is that good, really. I would much rather other enchanter supports like Milio, Janna, Lulu, Soraka. I would much rather any one of these enchanter supports instead. Senna is in a bit of a weird spot. I tried out Fleet Footwork on her. It doesn't really work out like I thought, but she's still pretty good as a carry support with the likes of Pyke as well. Alistar, again, another champion that uses the Hextech Z's convergence, the same with Rakan as well. This could boost up Alistar and Rakan up into the S tier. Really depends on how the meta shapes up. I mean, Xayah Rakan, one of the best duos in the bot lane, can also be very strong. I mean, if you pair Xayah with Rakan, then Rakan, in my opinion, will definitely move up into S tier. Seraphine and Sona, maybe not as strong in terms of enchanter support, but has the crowd control there and has the carry potential with both Glacial Augment and also their ultimates that can still be a big difference in fights. Then moving down into the B tier, Blitzcrank. Yeah, if you can land a hook, great, you're useful. If you can't, you cannot. Again, a lot of people are probably wondering why I keep Swain, Morgana in the support, like in B tier in the support role. It's just that they just don't offer anything. I mean, yes, Morgana has a black shield. I mean, every time I have a Morgana support, they just W the wave and they just push the wave when I don't want to, and they just take minions when I don't want to as well. I think people are playing Morgana as more of a carry role, which I guess is okay, but like, yeah, it's not a very good support champion. Same with Swain as well. Again, not a very good support champion, more of a carry. But yeah, can be quite difficult. I mean, Brand is down here as well, and Galio, which, to be fair, Brand and Galio not really supports anymore, but I thought I'd keep them in there. Anyway, that is everything for the tier list for Wild Rift patch 5.3. Again, you can see all the strongest champions on your screen now in the S+ tier. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these champions actually get nerfed in the next patch. The likes of Milio, again, Mordekaiser, Heimerdinger as well. I mean, when a champion is so strong in multiple roles, you can probably also play Heimerdinger in the barrel lane as well. It's definitely going to get nerfed next patch. But it's been a week since the new patch. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the new patch. Hopefully it's been a success for you all with the new season as well. But I wanted to get this out there because I wanted to play a bunch of games. I wanted to get a feel of the game with these new items before I put this tier list out to give you all the best possible tier list. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Take care of yourselves. Have a good rest of the day. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.